From Worldwide Technology, this is the AI Proving Ground podcast. Right now, a lot of organizations are racing to build AI capability. They're buying GPUs, standing up platforms, running pilots. And quietly, a new question is emerging underneath all that effort. Do you actually know what systems are doing once they're live? Observability used to mean keeping the lights on, but today it's more about understanding cost, performance, trust, and adoption in AI environments that are far more complex and far more expensive than traditional IT. When looking to scale AI, that lack of clarity doesn't just slow teams down, it turns innovation into guesswork. So today, we're talking with three experts about why observability is becoming foundational in the age of AI and why it sits at the core of Cisco's secure AI factory with NVIDIA. Joining us are Wintersteiger, who leads AI ops here at WWT and sees firsthand how enterprises struggle to operationalize AI. Tapan Shah from Sabhlok, who's shaping how observability evolves beyond reactive monitoring. And Sabhlok from NVIDIA, who is working directly on AI infrastructure where utilization, trust, and economics collide. Together, they'll talk about what it really takes to see inside AI systems as they scale, where observability stops being a tool, starts becoming an operating discipline, and quietly decides whether AI turns into durable infrastructure or a very expensive pilot. So let's jump in. Okay, well, everybody, welcome to the AI Proving Ground podcast. Tapan, how are you doing today?
Doing great.
And Ivan, how are you?
Doing awesome.
And Shashank out there virtually, how are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. We're talking about observability and how it's shifting in the age of AI. We're going to bring in some conversation about Cisco's secure AI factory and just get into a little bit of the landscape of what we're seeing around here. Tapan, we'll start with you. What are we seeing from observability moving beyond just that typical legacy IT ops, idea and more into an actual strategic lever that organizations can use? And how is that working in the age of AI?
No, absolutely. So I think historically what we have seen is when you talk about traditional monitoring or how things were being done for IT ops, people were always reacting to signals, right? That something went wrong. Hey, I got to act upon this. From there, the posture is changing a lot more to proactive. How do I get to know of something going wrong ahead of time? How do I figure out, hey, there's a drift happening in my environment. That drift could be just measurement of a metric, or now with AI, a lot of drift is in the models as well. Right. So there is that sort of landscape changing in terms of the posture becoming more proactive. The second big thing that's kind of happening is that a lot of things which were always based on, hey, IT teams are going to configure their environments in a certain way, and they will always expect certain behavior. And when that behavior is not normal, they're going to generate an alert. From there, it's changing more towards, do I really need to set things up?
Mm-hmm.
Can I just use AI where things like thresholds for metrics, etc., are just recommended to me based on historical data patterns? That way I'm not spending a lot of time setting things up, but system is telling me how I should be monitoring and observing things.
Yeah.
So I think
those
are the two aspects. Yeah.
Ivan, based on what Tapan just said, what are you experiencing as it relates to, what you're seeing? How are real world organizations talking about observability and how they approach it?
Yeah, no, actually, I was going to bring that up. In my mind, observability is no longer an optional thing, right? Because if you look at it, the whole purpose of it is to actually proactively fix the problems that are actually potentially happening in the IT systems, right? And those IT systems provide those services to the organization. And those services are so business critical these days that you cannot afford to have a downtime. You can see some of these outages that we've had either because of the cyber attacks or because of wrong code that was pushed or whatever, caused millions or even billions of dollars of downtime, and not just monetary, but there's also like a brand that is getting damaged as a result of that. So it's so critical nowadays. So that's why we're talking about here, like pretty much anything that we do and sell usually should have some level of observability attached to it.
Mm-hmm. And Shashank, how do AI systems or GPUs, how is the complexity underneath the hood of all these systems? How is that changing the game with observability from NVIDIA's standpoint?
Yeah, no, for sure, right? So to build on what Tapan and Ivan said, right, that GPUs are for an enterprise are like one of the more expensive line items in your AI factory, right? And to make sure that they're utilized and you're using that for inferencing and training your model, observability is not just about making sure everything is okay. Observability now is like financial control, right? You want to make sure that you're utilizing your resources and your models, your GPUs are working for you to make money for you and not just sitting there idle.
Yeah. Tapan, do you have a sense, he's talking about how you don't want GPUs to sit there idle. Do you have a sense of how much capacity we're wasting by not having the appropriate amount of observability on those GPUs?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's honestly one of the biggest blind spots.
Yeah.
As we see how things are being done, like every organization has a pressure, right? Oh, use AI. If you don't use AI, you won't be relevant, right? That to counter that pressure, they are just pushing a lot of workloads into AI. Now, what becomes important at that point of time is, hey, how are you actually seeing who is using what?
Mm-hmm.
Are your GPUs underutilized? Is one particular LLM or a service overutilizing a GPU, so that it's kind of resulting into thrashing for other LLMs, right? So how do you measure that? Two, when all this infrastructure is provisioned centrally, how do you cross-charge that to different organizations and the teams that are using it? So that's kind of becoming very critical. And eventually all this relates to capacity planning. Are we underutilizing? Are we overutilizing? Are we just spinning off too many workloads and too many GPUs in silos rather than kind of centralizing that and kind of distributing it across different teams? So that's kind of becoming...
No, absolutely.
And that clarity is becoming important. And I was talking to one of the clients that we have, and they actually brought up a very nice statement. They said, in the world of AI, clarity is the new uptime.
Love it.
So,
well, Yvonne, build on that. If GPU optimization is one of the biggest blind spots that organizations have, obviously efficiency and cost is going to be an effect, but what other downstream effects might occur within an organization that's going to cause, the AI strategy to break, so to speak?
Well, you have to look at it also from the employees or even the customers, right? If the system is not configured properly and it's not running optimally, you're not going to get a good experience, again, from employees' perspective, right? And it's still a new thing, right? And so if you don't have a good experience right off the bat, you're less likely to use it and utilize it as a tool, right?
Yep.
And then ultimately that's going to be driving the adoption the wrong way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so ultimately the companies will not see the benefits of the AI that it can potentially be. And so then you'll see these projects that they're all over the place now, pilots start to fail. And again, that's not what we want. So that's how that relates to that angle as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Shashank, I mean, really what we're getting at here is a trust factor. If we're giving that visibility and observability in, the more observability we have into how these systems work is driving more trust, which can drive adoption. I mean, is that kind of the idea here for organizations to think about?
Exactly, right. And just to build on what Ivan said, right? It's not, if you think about it from a persona standpoint, earlier, as Tapan said, like you would just think, or even what your initial question was, you would think like IT teams would be doing observability. Now it's going a cut above that. You have senior leadership now also looking at these things and making sure things are utilized and adoption is happening and so on. And to answer your question about trust,
Yeah.
absolutely, because when companies undertake AI initiatives and projects, right, it's not as simple as just, hey, we're going to use this endpoint model and build our apps around it. It involves a lot of investment,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you want to, and mostly that investment is like infrastructure, right? So you want to make sure that infrastructure is paying dividends down the line. Therefore, building that trust and ensuring those applications are utilized is important. And that comes not only to GPU utilization, but also the end applications and models that are being leveraged to solve the specific use case.
Yeah.
And the trust part actually doesn't stop just at the infra or the adoption or the consumption level, right? It extends pretty much to how applications or observability solutions even show these outcomes to the users,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you are producing that, hey, in this particular environment, we detected that if this trend of the past KPIs continue, in 30 minutes down the line, you will have a potential outage.
Yeah.
You can't just say that. You got to explain why we are seeing that. And that also is something that builds trust over time. So one is, yes, you consume the infra and then build the trust, as Shashank said. But then two, that kind of extends to when it is shown to the users and folks who are actually monitoring the systems.
Yeah, and even get proactive too, like not just what's broken, but what can we do? What can we do better? How can we be more efficient? I mean, Yvonne, what's the value of that? Assuming an organization gets it right, which is not easy to do, but what is the value of getting to that area?
Oh my God, yeah, the whole proactive nirvana, I call it, because I'm not sure if anybody's truly there. It's a journey that we all have to take on, but we have to be on the journey. You can't just not afford to wait, and then one day you're like, I'll do it now.
Right.
So really, it's again goes back to the whole idea of how business critical IT services are, because we talk about like every company is now IT company, which means that pretty much they have whatever products they do, but IT plays such a critical role in their business that they again have to have that done. And it's not even, it's just like AI, and in AI era, this is really even more important than ever.
And I think IT was historically seen, to Ivan's point, more as a cost center to the companies. It's now slowly transitioning towards being a strategic partner to the businesses, right? The LLMs that they're serving. So that's kind of the big transition happening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, let's roll into Cisco's Secure AI Factory. Tapan, I'll stick with you here. Yvonne mentioned how observability is no longer optional, and I think Cisco and or Splunk talked about its foundational element into Cisco's Secure AI Factory solution. So why is it important to make that distinction where it's not just it's not just an option, it's foundational, it's not a bolt on?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think one of the main distinction there is that again, I'll go back to historically how things were done. One, people were reacting to stuff and, hey, I would buy infrastructure. I would run application workloads on top. I would have some sort of monitoring setup, whether it's open source or an enterprise. And then this is how I'm going to build the world. And folks still stayed in the realm of, hey, every time things go wrong, I'll have some system notifying me. We can't really be in that world anymore. Right. And observability was always seen as after the fact thought that, hey, if I have security established in my environment, then I'm done. A lot of companies still think of it that way, that, hey, I need to just get the security posture right. But if you don't get the observability posture right, then I think you are hitting all those traditional problems of availability, performance, and clarity all at once. So that's where we see things are kind of changing. Now, what we are doing for this essentially is that we are bringing not just observability as an outcome of monitoring or outcome of, hey, we are observing systems and this is what we are seeing, but rather, how does that relate to a company's security posture as well? Do you have a lot of vulnerable systems that is potentially impacting the performance? And is there really the reason why your applications are showing latency? How do you connect all these dots together? I think that's where things become very important.
Yeah. Shashank, talk to me a little bit, how does, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, but how does that AI infrastructure, the GPUs, how does that change observability? Not, is it just where we're pointing that light, or is it more of where you have to change how we look at GPU utilization? Like, is there uniqueness in terms of what's happening on that end?
I think it. You just mentioned the Cisco Secure AI Factory, right? So yes, we have GPUs, but now that's impacting how you set up your infrastructure, right?
Yeah.
So let's break it down and talk about it. So for sure, you need observability on your GPUs. You want to make sure it's utilized. It's assuming like that's your unit of compute. You don't want to make sure like that's idle and that's utilized.
Yeah.
But then to set up your AI factory, right, you need a lot of you need a lot of components. Like right at the bottom, you need your servers, the Cisco UCS servers, that use NVIDIA GPUs. You need storage, right? You're training your models. You need to checkpoint them. AI networking comes into the picture, which operates between servers, which we call east-west, and between the customer and storage and the and the server, which we call north and south.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you have your orchestration layer through tools like Kubernetes and your applications on top. I've said a lot of things right now, right? So you need to, so it's not just about monitoring GPUs. You need to monitor that whole stack, top to bottom, that whole AI factory, because anything could be a point of failure in that whole system I described, right? So to top it all off, you need that observability layer, and as Tapan mentioned, that below that security layer to make sure everything is functioning properly and you're getting the maximum use of your AI infrastructure or AI factory.
Yeah.
Maybe, sorry to jump in. This reminded me of maybe to demystify observing the AI as something like way out there. It's really nothing new in a sense. It's like we've been observing infrastructure for many years. We've been observing applications for many years. And if you boil it down, AI is a combination of the two put together in a package. Yes, it has very unique things that we need to be able to do so. And this is where, again, NVIDIA and Cisco and Splunk come with all the specialty things. But at the end of the day, it's literally you're observing an application that runs on the infrastructure, and that's what this is.
Yeah. But is the North Star, so to speak, changing? You mentioned how it used to be downtime. Is the North Star, how is that shifting in light of what Ivan just said?
Yeah, so the North Star is absolutely changing because earlier, again, the focus was on infrastructure applications. Now the focus comes from the end user experience or the user impact. Or to Ivan's earlier point, even the business impact. Like people want to answer that question of, so what? Hey, I have an outage here, so what? How is it really impacting the company?
Yeah.
How is it impacting the business? So that's becoming the North Star. And to what Shashank earlier said, right? So one is the whole full stack observability for everything that's kind of delivering AI. But two, there are application workloads that run on top of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say full stack, it starts pretty much at network, infra. So to Ivan's point, none of that fundamentals are changing. But the way in which AI is changing that is what you measure is shifting now.
Yeah.
You were earlier measuring just the fault performance, simple different metrics. Now you're actually measuring the user experience. You are measuring, before this application used to use no AI services, now it's using AI services. What's the real difference?
Mm-hmm.
Are we seeing more adoption of that application? Are we seeing that users are sticking more to the application? I think those things are becoming more critical.
Yeah. Well, Shashank, I mean, everything's changing on such a rapid pace, and we always look to NVIDIA, of course, as kind of that leading indicator. So is the North Star going to continue to move? Are we looking at moving goalposts here as we bring in agentic or inference or quantum or who knows what? Like how is this all going to change the game of observability, you think?
I think something that's like very clear is that to add to what Tapan said, the infrastructure plus application end-to-end full stack monitoring, that's not going to change.
Yeah.
Whether you introduce agentic AI or RAG or even down the line quantum, right? Inferencing is here to stay. A lot of organizations are not just using, they've gone beyond just using it as a chatbot for like solving customer queries, right? They're actually using it to drive efficiencies in their business. So I don't think it's going anywhere. And like that full stack story that I just described to you earlier, that'll be crucial no matter what technology paradigm comes moving forward.
So that reminds me, actually, from an agentic perspective, where we're moving toward is so-called digital employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
They pretty much are powered by this AI infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so as any employer wants to make sure that they're getting quote unquote money's worth out of the investment or employees and make sure they're performing at whatever certain levels, that's where the observability comes into play. Almost plays a role of HR in a sense. I'm joking a little bit, but you get the point.
Yeah,
right?
analogy,
So
yeah.
That's where we're headed. That's why this is such a big deal. So.
Yeah. Well, Tapan, how is Cisco and Splunk thinking about this to make sure that, not just from an observability perspective, but from the whole Cisco Secure AI Factory perspective, it's a solution that can, adapt and weave and keep up with the pace of change here?
Yeah. No. So the way in which we are thinking is we are we are basically looking at three different perspectives to solve this problem. One, everybody so far said that we need to monitor infrastructure is the base layer. That includes networks and actual system infrastructure. We need to make sure that that infrastructure is available, utilized based on the capacity that's been allocated, and we know exactly who is utilizing what. So that's kind of the core. The second layer of the solution here is now there are agents. When we say agentic AI, all essentially we are talking about is that each application becomes an agent.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm a travel company, then I will have an agent which is just for flight search. I will have an agent which is for hotel search. Right. So ultimately, each of these functional elements of applications are becoming agents, and we want to monitor and observe those agents as well, how they are performing. In that particular case, what's changing with AI is also not just limiting ourselves to performance metrics, but also include the quality metrics, like the semantic quality, biases, hallucination, toxicity, sentiments. How do you ensure that all these things are part of your traditional observability offering? Because that's what is changing with AI. And then the third layer, which is where security comes into play, is how do you unify the visibility for the end users where they see the security posture in the context of observability, which is, again, going back to the previous examples of, is my infrastructure secured? Are my applications running secured? Is the data in transit always encrypted? Am I expecting any threats? And how do I relate those threats to an observability problem?
Yeah.
So that's how kind of the three elements are coming together.
Yeah. Well, that puts it into great perspective, Ivan. I'm going to ask you just kind of like put that into a real world lens for me, to the extent that you can within the AI Proving Ground, which is the namesake of this podcast. You know, how are we seeing that actually play out in the real world?
Well, actually, we're in the process of actually building the whole solution in our AI Proving Ground, in our ATC, our Advanced Technology Center, right? And so this is pretty exciting time because we want to go to market with this solution holistically, right? And that's why we think, again, observability is a key piece to this puzzle. We do not want our customers not to have that layer in the mix. So we are actually combining all that together. And yes, it's an exciting time for us. A lot of innovation is happening. We're working closely with Tapan and his team to really kind of make sure that we have all the bases covered. And what's maybe unique, and Tapan can probably talk more about it, the solution from Splunk that's layered on top really is unique from a market perspective. There is nobody else that can see and observe to the levels that they can, right? I don't know if you have a...
Yeah. And the specific differentiation there is that everybody observes Kubernetes infrastructure. That's a table stake these days. But what we do is we actually put that in context of the inferences and in context of how, like, Kubernetes workloads are running now, are using NVIDIA GPUs, things that are not available in public API domain. We have that sort of an intelligence with our partnership with NVIDIA, right? So that's like number one. At infrastructure layer. At application layer, we are not just observing application availability or latency, but we actually can look at the complete trace, where we can see that, hey, this agent was running. This agent actually made these sort of calls to these LLMs. And then we use LLM as a judge to even evaluate the response. Right? So we do a deep evaluation. So there are those kind of elements where it's not just about, hey, you're running this, we're monitoring this, but we are also checking how efficiently your applications are running. And the output that they're producing, are they quality outputs?
So you're saying the AI is monitoring AI?
Yeah, that's in fact, it's called LLM as a judge.
Yeah, Shashank, anything, and let's bring you in here, anything to build on top of what they're saying?
No, that's awesome. If AI judges AI, that means you need more GPUs, right? So to add to what Ivan was saying, like they're building out these solutions. They're based on NVIDIA's enterprise reference architectures, right? That essentially are a blueprint for companies and organizations such as Cisco to develop their technologies. And we also have an observability guide as part of that enterprise guide. That's pretty much at the foundational. It provides the foundational building blocks, right? That everything you need to start, and obviously, like Tapan and his team, they're in a position to deliver that and beyond.
Yeah. Yvonne, get into delivery a little bit. So, they've bought the solution. It's gone through the ATC. We've tested it out. What does day 1 or day 365 kind of look like as it relates to observability?
Yeah. Well, so in general, I mean, it has to be, this is all based, traditional delivery, maybe as we know it, you come and configure it and then you're out. Or like Tapan was saying, oh, we implemented security and now we're done.
Yeah.
You're not done at all. You're never done. So this is more becomes like an adoption play from a customer perspective. And again, the way you're adapting to whatever is happening, you have to be able to see what is happening with the systems and make sure they're working right. And that's where the key piece of the observability comes into play. It's the visibility into what is happening behind the curtain, in a sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, go ahead, Tapan.
No, so sorry about that.
No.
But just to add to that, right? Like, so what's changing to your question on day 1?
Yeah.
Days 365, we call it as day N, but there's also a day 0 aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, the day 0 to day 1 used to be a huge distance because you would install, set up things, get it going, do initial configurations, and that's what you call your day 1 as when you start onboarding your teams. Now, what's changing is observability is becoming more of an intent-based observability, where user will just provide their intent that, hey, I want to observe these systems.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know how to do this, just do it for me.
Yeah.
Do the setup, everything for me. I will just provide the intent. You do all the initial heavy lift that I had to do before myself.
Right.
And then present me that this is the outcome that I would be monitoring. So
I wanted to add also, I mean, also from implementation delivery, because we have the stuff in our ATC and we are, so to speak, kicking the tires already on all this thing. We absolutely will be ready to help customers quickly to help them adopt the solutions and then be around again if they run into issues. I think that's also a key piece. That's part of the, again, WBT secret sauce potentially.
Yeah. Well, Yvonne, I like what you had to say about seeing what's coming as it relates to that delivery, but I think that applies also to just where potentially observability is going. We touched on it a little bit with maybe agentic. Shashank, you had mentioned some of this stuff too. But Tapan, where is that puck going? To quote our CEO Jim Cavanaugh a lot, likes to use that analogy. But what are we going to have to observe in the future that's going to pop up? Like maybe it's just more of more agents running around. But is there something even beyond that is on our radar?
it's, I think that paradigm is shifting where what I am envisioning is that alerting will become a thing of a past.
Okay. Why?
Because people do not want to be alerted. Self-healing is going to be the reality.
Yeah.
That you know what the systems are doing, you learn from that, you remediate the problem, and when the problem situation reoccurs, you apply that same remediation, right?
Yeah.
So people call it as autonomous operations or smart remediation, but at the end of the day, we are talking about self-healing systems where agents would interact with agents, users would always be dealing with AI agents, right? So let's say, again, going back to the travel company example.
Yeah.
I'm on Expedia, for example, trying to query things. Expedia deploys agents for hotels and flights and etc., right? As an end customer, I'm interacting with those agents.
Mm-hmm.
When those agents are down, like Expedia knows that the impact is heavy because then I'm going to go to bookings.com, right?
Right.
So they would not be able to afford any downtime or outage on these things. That means systems have to be self-healing. Problems occurred, problems were solved before the actual customer or the end user reported about it.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that it's going to be a beautiful thing to be an IT ops guy or a help desk guy because you're just going to be sitting back, sipping on a coffee, and systems will just take care of it.
An observability solution becomes your insurance policy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know that's a little bit tongue-in-cheek.
So, Tapan,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, quick question there. Tapan, maybe a question for you, right? So do you think tracing is going to become ever more important then? Because sure, agents can self-heal, but they're also handling sensitive data right? And there's just so many stakeholders involved. So like, in case that they get something wrong, that can just easily like lead to trust erosion. So seeing what exactly is happening, I feel is going to become extremely important moving forward.
Exactly. And we
Yeah.
basically in the observability lens, we call that as explainability. You're doing
Right.
all these things, but explain us what really happened under the hood. Because that again aligns to trust as well.
Well, yeah, and that gets to the question, Vaughn, I was going to ask you. I think you were joking about, the IT ops guy can just sit and, sip on his coffee or whatever else he might be drinking that day. But you're talking about explainability. So that's still where the human in the loop. I mean, you're still going to have to go through those logs and go through that explainability to understand. It's not just, but it's easy to just put more trust into that AI than perhaps is practical. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, it's going to be a journey. You don't gain trust even with people like boom instantaneous.
Right.
This is the same thing we're doing now with the AI. So again, the visibility that that human in the loop has to have, or IT operations person, is going to be critical to make sure that, again, that trust is developed over time, and so then you can do more coffee sipping than doing other things.
Right. And Shashank, we had talked about that self-healing. Tapan mentioned the self-healing kind of future here. You along with the rest of us are working with some of the leading, most innovative companies in the world that are playing with AI. Are you seeing any of that self-healing start to emerge? Or are there any breakthroughs there, or is that still a little bit of ways off?
No, I mean, I'm sure like, organizations that have, made heavy investments in, in AI generally, in agentic AI are probably working there. But for wide scale B2B adoption, I think it's a while, but it's not far away.
Yeah.
Right. It's definitely something in the near future, and it's something that we need to be ready for, and that's why I think explainability and tracing becomes paramount in that case. So I don't think coffee sipping as much will happen, but I think the role of that ID ops person as to what they manage or what they look at, or how they problem solve is going to change a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how terms carry out throughout an episode. Coffee sipping, that's the one that just emerged. Tapan, you were going to say something.
Yeah, so no, I was just going to build on top of what Shashank said, right? Where like literally like in 2022, I was talking to a customer. We talked about autonomous operations and self-healing back then, and they laughed it out.
Right.
They laughed it out. That same customer, literally about a couple of weeks back, said that we shouldn't have laughed it out because this is becoming reality.
Yeah.
Meaning people are now seeing that has to happen.
Yeah.
It's no more a thing that people can laugh about.
Yeah, and the key point here is it's a journey that they have to go through. It's like a pyramid. Like what we're talking about is at the top of the pyramid. You can't just build that piece. You have to build all the foundational pieces to get there. So again, the sooner you get on this journey, the better you're going to be set for future.
Yeah. Well, that was just one of the key messages that Cisco president G2 Patel brought up on a prior episode of the AI Proving Ground podcast, which you can scroll down and see, which is like, stick with it. If something's not working, it may work potentially within like 3 to 6 weeks. That's how fast things are changing. And, Shashank, you had mentioned we need to be ready for whatever's next. And given everything we're talking about here, Vaughn, like how do we advise organizations to be ready for when that tide shifts?
Again, it's the whole thing of making that first step. Let's do this first step, knowing that the nirvana is there and we're shooting for it. But you still have to have that first step or two. And again, so really, it's all about helping them with the strategy around this, seeing what they have in their systems, and ultimately building that, tailoring that strategy around that so they can quickly, or as quickly as possible, get to that next level. And that's really ultimately what we're trying to do with every customer that we talk to.
Yeah. Shashank, we're coming up on
one thing is I think I will agree when they set that strategy. I think observability is always there from like day zero, so that it's clear that this is not something you can take for granted. And as you build, your observability stack also builds on top. And then at one point it can probably do all those fancy things we were talking about, right? Like self-healing and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Shashank, I'll stick with you here because we're coming up on the bottom of the episode. But any priorities that leaders out there need to be considering right now, so that at this time next year they're thinking to themselves, "Wow, we were making great decisions back then." Like, what should they be prioritizing right now?
Right. I think if you're on this journey of adopting AI, right, you would have most definitely invested in infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right. So to make sure, and again, I'll come back to that image I painted at the start of this podcast, where I said your AI infrastructure is not just a server with GPUs. It's everything around that. It's your switches. It's your Ethernet cabling, right? Even within the server, your PCIe lanes, your NV link lanes, and then beyond that, when you come to applications or and customer experience. So making sure that at least on day 0, day 1, like that observability is ready to go to make sure you know how your system is performing, because the faster you know, the quicker you can use that to drive drive revenue through your infrastructure.
Yeah, certainly massive shift towards AI-ready infrastructure across the stack. Tapan, we'll end with you here. Somewhat similar question, like what are the priorities for 2026? But what can organizations be doing right now so that their entire stack, their systems are easily observable to make those right decisions?
I think one point itself is the technology shift. So the organizations need to start planning for the technology shift. If they stay in the legacy mindset, that hey, we have been working like this forever, I think they will be deprecated in no time.
Yeah.
Right? Because things are moving at that pace where they need to be adapting to technology shift. Now, how to do that? Do you want to boil the whole ocean? What I have seen working successfully in organizations is they start with one particular user group or line of business. Those who are more adapting to the latest technology. So move them, show that as an example that, hey, look, these folks were on legacy data center infrastructure. We moved them to this sort of an infrastructure. Like, for example, Cisco's AI pod, right? Which is, to Shashank's earlier point, it's an ecosystem by itself.
Right.
It provides infra, provides networking, provides a Kubernetes layer on which you can run the applications and provide solution that can kind of observe that as well. So when customers start deploying all this, they need to work on identify that, okay, which is my line of business, which is aligned to a later technology trend, take them, apply these sort of solutions, show the ROI, right? Show the results.
Right.
The ROI here is, as I said, clarity is the new uptime.
Yeah.
Where we are just not looking at how your applications are always available. Your users are not impacted. Your business is not impacted. So show that and then make it a cookie cutter model, right? But they need to start adapting to newer technologies. Like within our company also, there is a clear push that if you don't use AI, you'll not be very useful in longer run. And I think that's real.
No, for sure. And I love that. Clarity is the new uptime. That's a good kind of key lesson to end the conversation on. To the three of you, thank you so much for taking the time. I know your schedules are busy, and those things are not taken for granted when you spend some time with us. So, Shashank, thank you out there for joining.
Thank you so much.
And the two of you here with me, thank you too.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Okay, thanks to Ivan, Tapan, and Shashank for joining. What this conversation keeps circling back to is a simple lesson that is easy to miss in the rush to adopt AI. You can't manage what you can't see, and in AI systems, not seeing clearly creates waste, mistrust, and stalled adoption. Maybe more importantly, it wastes a lot of time, money, and effort in the process. This episode of the AI Proving Ground podcast was co-produced by Naz Baker, Kara Kuhn, Diane Devery, and Addison Engler. Our audio and video engineer is John Knobloch. My name is Brian Felt. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.